Hello and good morning for those of you on the West Coast, and maybe afternoon for those of you on the East Coast, or something else if you're somewhere else in the world entirely. My name is Cynthia, and I am the creator of the Warriors Network. And today we are going to talk a little bit about how to release negative emotions and the three strategies that I use: short-term, medium-term, and long-term for releasing those emotions. First, I just want to talk a little bit about who I am and how I got here. I started this business back in 2017, excuse me, after a long journey of negative emotions in my life. I struggled with anger, depression, anxiety. Excuse me. I struggled with anger, depression, anxiety. I had a lot of health issues, asthma. I was highly allergic to mold. I ended up finding out I had an allergy to yellow dye number 5. My body was just sort of a mess. And that was at a very young age. That all started when I was very small. I had tonsillitis all the time. I had bronchitis all the time. I just had a lot of stuff going on. And so I spent my younger years always feeling sick, never feeling well and happy. And I also didn't really have a fun, enjoyable childhood because I was always worrying about something. I was the mom of the group, trying to steer people in the right direction, the responsible direction, the rule following direction all the time. So that was due to a lot of those negative emotions that I had built up in my body over time. And that was part of the problem. So I started reading books about communication and happiness when I was only about 17 years old, trying to find the thing that was going to help me be happier, because I was tired of being depressed and I was tired of having anxiety all the time. I went to the doctor in college, and the doctor told me that I was having panic attacks, but I knew that I wasn't having panic attacks. My thoughts weren't in any way, shape, or form related to what was happening in my body. I was sitting in a calm place, and all of a sudden this wave of panic would come over me. And if you've studied or researched panic attacks, you'll know that it's not always about what you're thinking in your mind. It can be, but it's not always about what you're thinking. Sometimes it's a reaction that happens in your body due to the things that you've got going on in there. So these are all the things that I want to help you learn how to let go of, so that you can live a happier, healthier, more passionate, energetic life. So first things first, in the short term, when you're in a situation and you're having a physical reaction, and this could be like a real panic attack where you're actually thinking about something that's scaring you and it's causing you to go into this fight, flight, or freeze mode. The two things that I typically do, and this can be for emotions that are not as strong as that. Just somebody cuts you off in traffic and you get angry about it, right? So you can use these two techniques for other emotions, not just panic or anxiety or depression. You can use it for anything. The first one is the letting go technique. And I learned it from David R. Hawkins' book called Letting Go. It's one of my all-time favorite books, changed my life completely. In the book, he talks about the power of our thoughts, where our thoughts are stored, how they're tied to our emotions, how you access them in your brain. It's a very enlightening book, and it really helped me to understand what was going on in my brain and in my body as the emotions were coming up. So the letting go technique is really about allowing the feelings into your body. So normally when we have a feeling that we don't want to have, fear, for instance, we sort of push it away, like, go away. I don't want to feel that right now. I'm going to go do something else to distract myself. And you just keep pushing it down further and further and further until you don't feel it anymore. You've distracted yourself enough that you pushed it down and you don't feel it anymore. And then a day goes by and something else triggers you into that fear again. And the reason why it keeps happening, your outside world will continue to give you a reason to bring those emotions up, because what your body is trying to do is let you feel the emotions so that you can release them. They don't release unless you actually feel them. So you have to let them in. So in order to let them go, you have to let them in. So there are a lot of different ways to do this. But like I said, I've been reading self-help books since I was 17 years old, and I've practiced a lot of different methods. I would say probably 15 to 20 different methods of doing this exact thing. The two that I'm going to teach you today are the two that I've found the most effective for me. They might not be the most effective for you, but I would encourage you to give them a try because, like I said, I've tried so many different ways, and these are the most effective that I've found, that I feel like I've done enough research to help someone who hasn't done any research. So if you've already done a lot and you've got your two techniques, then great. Fast forward to the next part. But these two techniques are fantastic. So the letting go technique is really, like I said, about letting it in. So when you have a feeling that you are trying to push away, you need to be able to recognize that you're trying to push it away. Sometimes you might need to go to a quiet place to do this, but when you get really, really good at it, you can do this standing in line at the grocery store. And I often do because I get a little bit overwhelmed when I'm in the grocery store. I'm very open. I can feel people's energy around me, and sometimes it's just too chaotic. And I need to use this when I'm in a crowded place, when there's a bunch of people around me. So this is the technique that I use when I don't have any privacy at all, and I can literally just be standing there quietly. So what I do is I just go into my mind, and I typically close my eyes if I can. If I'm driving, obviously I do not, but I typically close my eyes and I just feel, where in my body do I feel that emotion? So when I'm angry, I feel it in my jaw, my teeth sort of clench down, and it's tight here. It might be tight up here. If I'm feeling sadness or grief, it's usually somewhere up here in my upper chest, in my lungs. If I'm feeling anxiety, a lot of times it'll be in my stomach, but not always. I carry a lot of my emotions here in my chest. So anxiety is up here too for me. Sometimes my arms are involved. It's really dependent on the person because everybody holds their energy differently. There are some similarities where everybody will say, oh yeah, anger is always right here. But you might feel it here and somewhere else. So it's important for you to sit in your body, close your eyes if you can, and just feel where you feel that tension in your body, what's happening. And you may not even know what the emotion is. You might just be feeling something, but you don't know what to call it. Like, it's not fear, it's not anger, it's something in between, something I don't quite have the word for. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know the word. All you need to know is where you feel it in your body. And then you need to allow it in. So allowing it in looks a little bit different for everybody, but you could just think with your intentions, I'm allowing in this emotion. That doesn't always work for me. So sometimes I ask for more. And this is one of the fastest ways that you can get it to come in, because when you ask for more, your body will give you more because you feel that emotion. You're telling your brain, this is the emotion that I'm feeling. This is what I want more of. Bring it to me now. And so what will happen is your emotions will ramp up. And when they get to a point where there is nothing left to give, it'll just drop off and it'll be gone. And it's very quick. And this ramping up can take some time. It depends on how strong the emotion is, how long you've been pushing it down, all those things. But it will ramp up, and then eventually it will stop, and then it will just drop off. So what that looks like is I literally just close my eyes, feel it in my body. Where is it? Okay, in my stomach. Can I have more of this feeling, please? More of this feeling, please. More of this feeling, please. Okay, so for me, it's really quick. I've been doing it a long time. It might take you 5 minutes. It might take you 10 minutes. It depends on, like I said, how long you've had this emotion in your body, how long you've been pushing it down, how big it is. So for me, it's really fast because I just ask for more, and it just keeps going, and then it's gone. And if the more you do this, the less things will build up. And so it will become very quick to release a particular emotion. So this is a fantastic technique. Like I said, it literally changed my life. This book, when I read it, I've given this book to so many people since I've read it because it literally changed my life. And I think if everybody practiced this technique, the world would be a different place. It's really great. There's a whole section in there about a person living from different vibrations in life, from shame and fear all the way up to peace and love, and how it goes through each one, and it describes how someone would react in a particular situation if they were living from that vibration. And it's crazy to see the different behaviors that person would have. That the incident is a car accident that he gets into. And it describes him from each phase. Like if he were in courage, this is how he would react. If he were in love, this is how he would react. It's really great. That's my favorite part of the whole book. So that's technique number one. And this is short-term techniques. This is, you've got something going on, you need to deal with it immediately. You don't have time to worry about sitting down for meditation or anything like that, right? It's a short-term. The second one is tapping. And I learned this version of tapping from Sarah Longoria, which is a little bit different than standard tapping. And number one, we don't use this point here. We use the top of the head. We use the point here, the point on the outside of your eye, underneath your eye, underneath your nose, on your chin, your collarbone, and then the side over here. There are a couple more points, but they're harder to see off camera, so I won't do those ones. But there's a pattern, and you just follow this pattern. What you're doing is you're tapping on your meridians, and you're sort of vibrating them to let the emotion that's stored in there out of your system. And as you do it, so that typical tapping does this same pattern, but as you do it, the part that Sarah Longoria added, which for me works immensely, is to say what you really want to say while you're in the moment, while you're having that triggered reaction to something. You're angry about something and you just want to let the person at the grocery store have it because they took the last, I don't know, burrito in the freezer aisle. So what you're going to do, and obviously in the middle of a grocery store, tapping is not the best thing for you, right? Because people are going to look at you like you're nuts because you're tapping on your head and walking down and like the aisle as you're muttering to yourself, right? Like tapping is not, it's not great for the grocery store, but it is fantastic for your vehicle. So you leave the grocery store, you get in your car, and you know, people might look at you like you're weird if they can see you, but it doesn't matter because they can't really hear you, and it won't matter to you, right? If you're really having anger in the moment and you need to get rid of it, it's not going to matter to you. You're going to go ahead and tap. So what you would do is, as you're tapping, so you're just going to start here, and you're going to say exactly what you want to say. Man, that stupid lady, I can't believe her. I can't believe she took the last burrito. What a pain in the ass. I really can't believe her. Oh my God. Oh my God. Why would she do that? She knew I was going to get it. I was standing there looking at it for like 2 minutes, and then she just reached right in and took the damn burrito right out from under my nose. Why would she do that? Why would she do that? What a bitch. What a bitch. I hate people like that. I hate people like that. I hate them. Okay, so I'm closing my eyes as I'm tapping. I'm saying exactly what I want to say. And that was sort of a mild version of it, right? Sometimes when you're pissed off at your husband or your kids, this is going to be much more fiery. You're going to have a lot more passion. You're going to use words that you would never normally use. You're going to say things that you don't even want to think. The key is to let it out, because we hold back our words all the time because we don't want to hurt people. And sometimes we think, oh my God, I don't even want to put that out into the universe because I don't want it to come true. But if it's in your body, if you're thinking it, it needs to come out. So this is the perfect time to just say whatever it is you want to say, to just let it rip, right? So that's why this technique is so incredibly useful for me, because I spent a lot of my life not saying the things that I really wanted to say. I kept it all inside. I was the good girl and I didn't want to be mean to people. So I never let it out. I just kept it inside. I still thought the thoughts. I just didn't say them. I just kept them inside. And so this release will really help you let go of all the things that you have been storing in your body for years and years and years. So this one's a little bit different, right? You can't do it in public, really. You need a private place where people can't hear you. And if you're upset with your husband, the best part about this technique is, say you and your husband get into a fight and you really just want to let him have it and you're sick and tired. You've had this conversation over and over and over again. It never gets resolved and you just can't take it anymore. You're done. And you want to just go scream at him. And you know you'll feel better once you scream at him because you're releasing the emotion. But the thing is, you're putting it all over on him, and then you're going to feel guilty because you just screamed at him. Or with your children. It's even worse with your children after you scream at them. Oh my God, the guilt that the moms have when we yell at our children. This is where I started. I had a lot of trouble with my boys when they were growing up. They both had ADHD and they were very difficult to parent. And I felt like a terrible parent because I was always yelling at them. I was always angry. I just didn't know how to let go of my emotions. So that's one of the reasons the Letting Go book was such a big deal for me, because at that moment in time when I was angry all the time with my children, they were just crazy, bouncing off the walls. I didn't know what to do with them. This is what I did. I learned the Letting Go technique, and I didn't have tapping yet, but I really wish I had. I really wish I had had it back then because it would have helped. So the best part about having this with your husband or your children is you go to a private place, your bedroom, the bathroom, whatever that may be, and you start tapping and you say exactly what you would say to them if you could just let it all out, just blip, right? Just let it all out, everything you want to say, everything you feel, and just say it, but in a place where they can't hear you. After you're done releasing that, you're going to feel so much better. You're going to feel an emptiness in your body, like a hollow, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just finally got that out. That was so huge. I haven't said that ever in my life. And I just finally was able to release it. From that place, you're going to be able to have a conversation with your husband or your children that's going to allow you to get to your point. You may still need to have a conversation. Sometimes you won't need to have a conversation because you'll recognize that all the anger is on your end, that they're not really doing anything wrong. You're just having a day, right? But sometimes it's a conversation that you really do need to have with your husband. Like, I really hate it when you do this, and we need to find a way for me to be okay with what you do and you to do less of this, or something along those lines, right? You still need to have a conversation. What it will allow you to do is come back after you've had that release and have that conversation with your husband in a calm, almost dispassionate manner, because the anger is gone, you've released it. So you can say things with ease. You can say them in a way that doesn't sound confrontational to your husband. You can, and he's going to listen, right? Because when you come at somebody and you're yelling at them, they're not listening to what you're saying. They're literally just defending themselves because there is nothing else that they can do. Really, there's nothing else they can do other than to defend themselves from the energy that you're literally throwing at them. So it's not helpful to have a conversation in that manner. So once you've released the energy and you come back and you have a calm, cool, collected conversation where you're just talking about the facts, this is what I want. Can you do this? Or can we find some happy medium that will make us both happy? And that's when you have really productive conversations. I've literally been studying communication since I was 17, and I knew all the techniques. I just could never use them because I could never get to a place where I didn't have so much emotion in the middle of an argument that I couldn't express myself in the way that I wanted to. This has really changed that. So now that I have the ability to release the energy before I have the conversation, now all the communication techniques that I learned work. Now it's helpful. Now my family knows how to get along and do all the things that I wish that we always could have done. So it's a whole different life here for me and my children and my husband. So those are your short-term techniques. When you've got something triggering you, it comes up, you're either going to use the letting go technique if you don't have any privacy at all, or you're going to use the tapping technique if you have privacy and you can speak, yell, tap. Now, I use the letting go technique in private as well. It really depends on the emotion. So tapping is really good for anger. The letting go technique is a little bit better for sadness. Because when I'm sad, I don't feel like I have a lot of fire and energy to do the tapping itself. And the letting go technique lets me just sort of sit with myself and be and feel it. So it depends on the emotion. I use them for different situations, different emotions. And I encourage you to just do them both, test them out, see which one you like best in which situations. Because like I said, it's going to be different for everyone. Number two, the medium-term strategy that I use is meditation. So what meditation does is it allows you to connect with your inner being, and it automatically raises your vibration. So in the Letting Go book, Dr. Hawkins talks about this ladder of emotions, and it starts all the way down at like grief and apathy and goes all the way up to like love and joy and peace, right? So there's a number 200 at the courage level is where the emotions go from negative to positive. So everything below 200 at courage, this is courage, everything below 200 is negative emotion, pride, anger. Yes, pride is a negative emotion, which is interesting when you read the book and hear what he has to say about it. But pride, anger, shame, guilt, apathy, all that stuff is down here. Everything above this is like peace, love, bliss, all really, really great things. Some are even, gosh, I wish I had the ladder in front of me, but because I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but there's some others in there like acceptance and things that are not like over the top, like, oh my God, this is an amazing emotion. I want to feel bliss, but something more in the middle above courage, like acceptance. And acceptance is a really great place to be. So what meditation does is it literally allows your body to come into resonance with your higher being, and then your vibration will rise. As your vibration rises, you're going to have less of those negative emotions because the vibration is basically going to kick out all the negative emotions. So the reason why we tap is because we're vibrating our meridians, and as they vibrate, the things get released. So meditation does something very similar, only you're just sitting quietly and allowing your inner being to flow through you, right? Your spine, you have this from the base of your skull that goes all the way down to your tailbone. Your spine has a channel in it that can accept your inner being from above. This magical thing that runs our body that tells all the organs to do all the things. It's not just our brain, right? Our brain does do a lot of things, but that's not the only thing. The life force that is in you comes through your spine in this channel. If you've heard of Kundalini, that's what it is, right? You're bringing that energy down into your body from up above through your crown into your spine. So when you're meditating, that resonance in your spine, it spirals like this. And some people can feel it when they meditate. I can feel it as soon as I close my eyes and ask for that energy to come into me. I can feel my body move, but not everybody can. And I think the reason that I can feel it now is because I spent so many years meditating that I just opened up the channel. It was probably 2.5, 3 years of meditation every single day before I got to the point where I could finally feel it moving in my body. I remember the day that it happened. I had been meditating on a little bench, the kind that you sit on like with your knees down underneath the bench and you sit on top. And I remember like my body just started moving, like literally like this. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? Why is my body moving? And I would stop myself and be like, oh my God, what's happening? I don't understand. And then it would just start moving again. And I remember coming out of the bedroom and my husband was out in the living room and I was like, babe, I don't know what just happened, but my body is moving itself. Like, am I possessed? I don't understand what's happening. And I remember searching online everywhere to try and figure out what was happening to my body. And I couldn't figure it out because there wasn't really anybody at that time that was talking about it online. Now people talk about it, but it's still not super common. So I learned to harness this energy after that day where I thought I was going crazy. I went back and I started asking myself questions like, what is this energy? And I started to realize that this energy could give me a yes or no response in my body. Now, everybody can do this, but it's not like this for everybody. So if you have this, great. If you don't, there are some other ways to feel it. But there's in general, in your chest, there's an opening for a yes and a closing for a no. So this looks like this and like this. but you feel it in the body. It doesn't always look like that. It might not, you might not actually move, your body might not move like that, but you will feel this opening, and it's in sort of like a V shape pattern that you feel it. So when you ask yourself a question, if the answer is yes, and you have to start with yes, no, before you can really train yourself to trust your body. So if the answer is yes, you will feel this opening in your chest. If it's no, you'll feel this closing. You can also do it standing up, where they call this like the body pendulum technique. And standing up, if you ask yourself a question and the answer is yes, you'll tend to fall forward. And if you ask the question and the answer is no, you'll tend to fall backward. So it's different for everybody. You have to calibrate it. And what I always tell people is to use something that they know, like my name is Cynthia. Okay, my body goes forward. I have brown eyes. My body goes back. I look like I have brown eyes, but I don't. They're hazel, and my body knows the difference. Even sometimes when I've changed my hair, if I say I have brown hair, my body will tell me no, because I've recently dyed it red or something like that, right? So I always use those calibrating statements to make sure that I know what a yes is and what a no is. And because it's different for everybody, I want you to do the same if you're going to try out this technique, because you need to know what your yes is and what your no is. So really, this is just a way that we connect with our inner being. We can ask ourselves yes or no questions, and you can get more complicated. You will eventually be able to ask other questions, or you'll be able to take two situations and say, okay, how do I feel about this situation? And you'll be able to feel an opening or a closing. The opening means we like this situation, right? And then you can ask yourself about this situation. And if you feel that closing, like, okay, my body does not like this situation. So you can choose between two different things using this technique as well. And the more practice you get, the more you'll get other things. You might start to see images or hear things, or just know things. So I'm claircognizant and clairsentient. So I know things, I feel things in my body a lot. That's my primary. And then I also see images every once in a while, but that's my third, and it's weaker than the rest. I very rarely hear anything. I think it's only maybe been twice, and I very rarely smell. I smell more often than I hear. So those are the clairs for anybody who's wondering about psychic intuition sort of stuff. But it's all connected, right? It all comes from the same place. It is this energy that comes in through your crown, goes down through your spine, and connects you to your inner being. And the more time you spend in that resonance, the higher your vibration goes, and the more negative emotions you can release. So this is a medium-term goal because it takes some time, right? This isn't something that you can do in 10 minutes in a day, and all of a sudden you're going to be happy as can be, right? This takes daily effort of meditation. And it doesn't take quite as long as you would think. It might be a week before you start to notice, oh, I feel a little bit better today. But it's not an immediate thing. This is not a short-term thing. It's a medium-term goal. It might take you weeks or months to do. So number 3, the long-term strategy that we're going to talk about is all about food. And most people, I find, do not realize that their food is connected to their mood. I found this out when I was having allergies to yellow dye number 5. I was having a lot. I mean, I had a lot of allergies throughout my life when I was younger. I used to have this weird thing where when I would drink NyQuil, my ears would turn bright red. This is when I was like, I don't know, 6 years old. And there was like those chocolate bars that kids used to sell to go like on the trip to DC in middle school, not high school, but middle school. They used to sell those candy bars. I don't even remember the name of the candy bar, but when I would eat those candy bars, my ears would turn bright red. So I had some weird stuff going on in my body, and I didn't quite know what it was. But it had always been this way, like as long as I knew. And so when I started having these weird allergic reactions to other foods, like my throat would swell up and I would feel like I couldn't breathe. And there was just a lump in my throat, and it would stay there until the next day. Like I would go to sleep at night and I would wake up okay the next day. It was always an overnight thing. I had to like let that muscle release or something. I didn't know what it was at the time. Now I believe it is the muscle tensing up, but I didn't know what it was at the time. I I had scopes down my throat. I had ultrasounds. I had all kinds of stuff trying to figure out what it was. But it took me a year to figure out what I was actually allergic to. So what I had to do was I had to, number one, I started tracking my food. I started writing down everything I ate and how it made me feel. And that's the most important thing, is to make that connection between what you're eating and how you're feeling based on what you're eating. And sometimes how you feel doesn't happen immediately after you eat it. Some foods will cause a mood disruption the following day. So it's not always immediate. So that's why it's a little bit hard to see, and why most people do not make the connection, and why you really need to track every single day in order to figure it out. But I had written down all the foods that gave me this reaction, and I was going through them, trying to find the common denominator. And luckily, one of the foods that I ate that gave me this reaction were Smarties. And Smarties have very little ingredient, like it's just dye and bicarbonate. So really there wasn't that much in there. So I was able to narrow it down to a dye. And then I figured out, based on the other foods that I ate and their ingredient list, I figured that yellow dye was the connection. Through my research, I also found out that yellow dye number 5 is a petroleum-based product. So then I went down the rabbit hole of, okay, what else do I have in my life that's petroleum-based? And I realized that I had recently got a memory foam mattress that was made out of petroleum, and I had it for about 6 months. And so I decided, well, I think I need to get rid of this mattress. And my husband was not happy, because we had just bought it and we had spent a lot of money on it, and he loved it. So I said, okay, well, I'll sleep on the couch for a couple of nights and see how it goes, and see if anything's any better, and we'll go from there. And I started sleeping on the couch. And I think it was probably only 3 or 4 days into that everything started to look different. My face, like I had really, really dark circles underneath my eyes, and they just started to go away, like just disappeared. And I wasn't changing anything else other than I was just sleeping on the couch. And for me, there's a lot of people who say that these dark circles are just because you're tired, but they're also tied to your kidneys. And depending on the status of your kidneys is how dark or light they will be. It is also tied to how tired you are, but that's not the only thing. So if you feel like you're fully rested and you shouldn't have dark circles under your eyes, look into your kidneys. Try and see if there's anything that you can do to help your kidneys. But for me, getting rid of that mattress made all the difference. As soon as we got rid of it, I started to feel a whole lot better in my body. I started to get my energy back. It was definitely the mattress. So for anybody who's having those sorts of issues, I would suggest looking at all the petroleum products in your life. And this is when I went to my allergist said this is a 1 in 10,000 allergy. So when I first told him I thought I was allergic to yellow dye number 5, he didn't believe me. He said, no, that's a 1 in 10,000 allergy. You're very likely not allergic to that. And even if I thought you were, I couldn't really give you a test, because there is no test to tell you whether or not you're allergic to it. So, but whatever, it didn't matter to me. I just stopped eating anything with yellow dye number 5 in it. And I found a really great path for myself. It led me down the path of tracking my food, figuring out how I felt when I ate the food. And my allergist did give me what he called the caveman diet, which was basically getting rid of anything that could cause any allergy. So the only thing that I was eating was fruits, vegetables, rice, and chicken. I was eating eggs at the time, although I did cut them out because I noticed that they caused a reaction for me. And I did a bunch of research on eggs. And what I found was that, and you're going to laugh, this is crazy, but non-organic farmers sometimes will feed yellow dye number 5 to their chickens to make the yolks more yellow. Why would they do this? I don't know. Because apparently in some world, bright yellow yolks mean they're tastier or they're healthier or whatever, I don't know. So they literally put yellow dye number 5 in the feed of the chickens to make their yolks more yellow. Hence, I stopped eating eggs. So I naturally found my way to the protocols that the medical medium teaches. So, but I didn't know who the medical medium was yet, because this happened back in 2011 and I hadn't read his first book until 2015, 2016. I think it was like the end of 2015, beginning of 2016 that I read his first book. And I naturally found my way to this. I was eating fruits for breakfast. I was eating salads for lunch, and I was eating rice and chicken and broccoli for dinner. Now, the protocols, the medical medium protocols, are not a proponent of rice. And as my body has changed, I don't feel very good when I eat rice anymore. So I actually don't eat rice anymore. But the vegetables, the fruits, and the chicken, I still eat. I still eat meat. I had years as a vegetarian, I had years as a vegan, but I have brought meat back into my life. I just tend to keep it at dinner time because I want to keep my fats low until the end of the day. So this is how I found out that this changed my mood entirely. Just by tracking the foods that I was eating and the mood that I was having, I was able to correlate what I ate and how it made me feel. So for instance, sugar makes me super angry. It makes me super angry. Sometimes in the morning, if I eat sugar the night before, I will wake up with a buzzing in my body, and it makes me very twitchy and irritated. And then the whole next day, I will go through that day with this just itchy, irritated feeling. And then it comes out on other people, right? Because I'm easily irritated. Somebody will do something really slight that's no big deal, and it will irritate the crap out of me, and I will yell at them, right? So I started to notice that this is what was happening when I ate too much sugar. And I was not perfect by any means. So I was still eating. Well, in the beginning, I was almost perfect because in the beginning, I literally feared for my life. Everything I put into my mouth, I was afraid was going to kill me, because I thought my throat was going to swell up so bad I wouldn't be able to breathe and I would literally die before I could get to the hospital. So I have a lot of trauma around food and my throat, because I never knew if what I was eating was going to cause this reaction. So eating in restaurants was like Russian roulette, basically, because I had no idea what was in that food. I didn't know if they had put something in it that had yellow dye number 5 that I didn't know about. I mean, and my allergist told me I was allergic to crustaceans. So anytime they had like fish sauce or like shrimp sauce or anything like that, I would freak out because it would cause that reaction in my throat. I remember ordering tacos from like Baja Fresh or something in the mall, thinking like, oh, I can eat tacos, no big deal, right? But they had on the grill, they had cooked shrimp just before they had cooked my stuff in my taco. And so that I had that reaction in my throat and was like, oh my God, I can't eat out. This is horrible. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. So in the beginning, I was very strict about my foods. I ate just fruits, vegetables, chicken, rice. That was it. Those were the only foods. And I ended up losing like 60 pounds, and I ended up feeling amazing in my body. I had so much energy. I started kickboxing. I started doing karate. Like, I had more energy in my body than I had ever had in my entire life. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Oh, one other thing I should mention about this is around that same time, there were 2 other things that happened that contributed to my high level of toxins that I had in my body at that time. Number one, there was like this weird thing that happened at my work where somebody had pulled the fire alarm in the IT building, and the data center shut down, and this gas fills this room, and to basically put out the fire in the data center to keep us from losing all of our data, right? And I was sitting right outside the data center when this happened, and so I was exposed to all these chemicals. So I looked at the data sheets, and everybody told me like, oh, there's nothing in there that's going to harm you. But to this day, I still don't know. That may have been what kicked off my initial reaction. Secondarily, what I had also done during that week was I had done a colon cleanse, some like powder that you mixed in water and you drank, and it was supposed to clear out your colon. So if you've read anything about cleansing with the medical medium, you'll know that that's like one of the worst possible ways you could cleanse, because what it did was it pushed out some stuff, but it also kicked up all these toxins that were stored in my colon for my own good, pushed to the side in their little storage places to keep me from harm. I had brought those out into my body. So now they're circulating throughout my bloodstream and everything. And my liver could not take them up fast enough. So my body was literally on high alert. So, which is why I was having allergic reactions to everything at that time. So me changing my diet and eating super clean allowed my liver to take up those toxins and either store it or push it out where it needed to go to get rid of it. So that was a really bad idea. And I'll probably never, ever, ever do that again. And I would never recommend doing a colon cleanse like that. I do cleanses all the time with the medical medium protocols. And there's a very specific way to do it, and I do still have reactions when I do the medical medium protocols, but they're much more mild and they don't cause my body to go into this level of high alert where everything is causing issues, right? So, yeah, that is what happened during this food trauma that I had, but it allowed me to understand that the connection between food and mood is really interesting. And it allowed me to change my diet based on how I was feeling. So there are certain foods that there's a whole book that the medical medium put out called Life-Changing Foods. And I have it right here, so I'll show you. Mine's sort of a mess because I've been using it for years, but there's my book, Life-Changing Foods. I love this book. I have used it to create a matrix for myself of which foods can help with which emotions. So, for instance, turmeric and Atlantic sea vegetables, if you look up anger in the back, it'll show that those two foods can help you with outbursts of anger. I do have some other foods like mango that can also help with anger that are not listed in the index. So I've read this book many times and I've gone through each food and I've tagged it with every emotion that it can assist with. And so if you look in the index and you look up anger, you'll only see turmeric and Atlantic sea vegetables. But on the chart that I've created, which is called the Medicine Food Matrix, you'll see mango and a couple of others as well that help with anger. So if you want the Medicine Food Matrix, it's a free download. It's in the Health Warriors group. You can just go over to that group and register to be in that group, which basically just means you put in your email address and then you can download it from there. So it's a really great resource to have. I think I've got depression, ADHD, anxiety, anger. I think I even have PTSD. All the things that I was really focused on when I was doing this work all the time, every day, are in the matrix. And so the foods, I love this book so much because what he does is he talks about each food, which symptoms like it will help with. So there's a list of symptoms. So basically, if you have one of these symptoms, eat this food is what it's saying. If you have one of these conditions, eat this food. And then he talks about the emotional support that each of the food provides and the spiritual aspect of the food. And I just love it. It makes me so happy to be able to tie those things to the food that I'm eating, because I know when I'm eating that food, what it's really doing for me. And for me, that makes all the difference in the world. It makes it so that I can eat the foods that I really want to be eating. It helps me, and his focus is bring in the foods that you want, and the foods that you don't want to eat will become less and less, right? Because we all eat foods that we know aren't good for us because they're there, because it's all that's in the house or it's all that was at the party or whatever. But the more you know about the food that you're eating and how it can support you emotionally and physically and mentally, the more likely you are to bring those foods into your life. And so that's what this book really did for me. It changed my life in that terms. Like, it really is about life-changing foods. How can you change your life with food? And it's amazing. I can't recommend it enough. I don't have the Letting Go book here with me. I'd show you that one too, but these two books have changed my life immensely. And so, yeah, the Life-Changing Foods book, maybe I can show you. I'll just read, I'm going to read a bit out of, so this is mangoes and the emotional support that they provide. Mangoes are my all-time favorite fruit. They support anxiety, depression, and anger, which is why I love them so much, because those are the things that I really struggled with and I needed assistance with. And it supports all three. And so I was I was like, oh my gosh, I can't get enough mango. So this is on page 99 under emotional support. Mangoes are life-changing when it comes to our emotional health. Not only do they uplift the mood, they can alleviate depression and seasonal affective disorder. Mangoes are exceptionally healing for anyone who feels abandoned, cut off, forsaken, outcast, shunned, detached, lonely, hurt, left out, or let down. That's because mangoes have the power of manifestation. When we eat them, the fruit reorients us, changing our direction and opening us up to more opportunities to experience joy, which ultimately helps us connect to our destiny. So I just love that. That makes me so happy to know that that's what mango is doing for me, and it makes me want to eat more mango. I want to read the spiritual lesson too, because I just feel like these are so powerful that you can't hear them enough. So mangoes handle the heat like no other fruit. Even with the sun beating down on them at extreme temperatures, mangoes know how to shield themselves. When we incorporate mangoes into our lives, we internalize their inner cool. They teach us that it's possible to handle extreme situations without burning up inside. We learn how to keep calm and collected when we're up against immense stress, how to stop ourselves from becoming hot-headed and angry when the heat is on. The next time you're facing an intense situation, find a mango to snack on or add frozen mango to a smoothie. As you take it into your body, remind yourself that this powerful tool will help you face the tough circumstance like never before. And then each food also has like a recipe that you can make with that food. So this is an amazing book. For mango, it's Mango Lassi, which is Mango Lassi is something that Ayurveda uses. It's a food that Ayurveda uses, and I learned to use it the Ayurveda way, but they use milk or yogurt to create it. In the medical medium version, he uses coconut milk because there's no dairy in any of his recipes. They're all vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, corn-free, everything free. If it's not a fruit or a vegetable, it's probably not in his recipes, which I love. It makes life easier, and it's really helped me learn how to eat cleanly and change my emotions entirely. So that was a lot, right? 3 strategies: short-term, medium-term, and long-term. The food is the long-term strategy because it really does take a long time to change your emotions with food. It's not going to be a day or 2, although you might see, if you're prone to angry outbursts, you might see that happen quickly, but it will come back quickly as well because you haven't released it yet, unless you're using the other short-term and medium-term techniques. If so, that will help you in the short term, and then over the long term, that the food will help. So the food is more like, if you ate this food every day for a month, at the end of the month, you might be like, wow, I do feel cool and collected. I don't have as much anger in me, right? Even if you did none of the short-term or the medium-term techniques, if you only did the long-term technique over like a month period, over a month period, you would notice the difference. So short-term technique, the letting go technique, you're going to feel it in your body, ask for more, let it go. The tapping technique, you're going to tap on the points as you say exactly what you want to say, no holds bar. You're just going to let it out as you go through all the techniques, all the tappings. And you're just going to keep doing this until you feel like you've let it go, until you feel a release or a hollowness inside. You feel like it's done. You're just going to keep going. Sometimes it will change when you start in the beginning. It'll change from like, I'm mad at you. It'll turn internal. It'll turn from, I hate you, I hate all the things that you've done, to I hate me. That's when you're getting to the core of it. That's when you're figuring out what's really behind that. And so if you can keep going until you get there, that's really important. When you get to how it is internally for you, when you're putting that anger towards yourself, that's when you know you've hit the core of it. And it might take a while. It might not take one session to get to the core of it. It might take you doing it over and over and over again to get to the core of it. So if you don't get there on the first time, it's okay. Keep doing it, keep practicing it, and you will get there. Medium term strategy is meditation. It's going to help you connect with your higher being. It's going to allow that energy to flow through your spine and raise your vibration. And then long term, change your food. fruits, vegetables, meat if you're a meat eater. Stick with those things. And the progression of it is fruit in the morning because your body needs glucose. That's what your brain and body are craving, is glucose. So fruit in the morning first thing. And then in the afternoon, get your greens in. So salads, you can put fruit in your salads if you want, but make sure you get the greens in. That's really important. And then at night, that's when you can have your meat. You want to keep I'll go into this in another training, but the meat you want to keep towards the end of the day because that has fat in it. And so the less fat you have in your diet, the more your liver can cleanse. And so you want to keep the fat out as long as you can. If you can keep the fat out in your breakfast, if you can keep the fat out of your lunch and just have it at dinner, your liver will have more time to cleanse. So those are the 3 strategies. I hope that that was helpful for you and that you learned a lot today. And I hope that you can really take charge of your emotions now with those 3 strategies. I just want to let you know that this recording, I'm going to go ahead and put into the space, the Serenity Warriors space, and it'll be there for anyone who becomes a part of the Serenity Warriors. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Serenity Warrior Mama. And if you're not yet a part of the network, if I've shared this out with others and you're not yet a part of the network, you can go to www.thewarriorsnetwork.com and you can sign up. All it takes is an email address to sign up. And there are 3 groups within the network: Health Warriors, Serenity Warriors, and Earth Warriors. You can join one or all 3. It's up to you. I'm happy to have you in all of them. And I hope you have a fabulous day. And I hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message in the chat of the Warriors Network. And yeah, I think that's it. Have a fantastic day.